Morena and welcome. It's Monday, the 7th of March 2016, and tomorrow is International Women's Day. We're so excited, and this is a series all about celebrating women and in all our glory. So I've got a series of guests this week, and my first guest, who I'm really excited to have with us this morning, is Caren Rangi. Morning, Caren.
Kia ora, Rachel.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of this series this week. We're talking to men and women all over the world, actually, and really it's about celebrating and acknowledging women and the journey that we've come on. So I'd like to introduce Caren, who I have come to know in the recent months, and we've worked together and will be working together in the coming future. And Caren is the president of the Pacifica Women. And this is an amazing conference that they have been setting up, and an amazing group of women. So I'm going to let Caren also introduce herself and tell us, how did you get to where you are at the moment, Caren?
Well, I've been blessed to be National President for Pacifica for the last year. A 40-year-old organisation that celebrates and promotes Pacific women. I was elected by the membership, so that feels really good. And we've got a huge role ahead of us to promote and support and celebrate everything that's fabulous about Pacific women.
Fantastic. And I also know that you're a mum, and that keeps you really busy.
Sure does. So one 14-year-old and one very active 8-year-old, and of course their father here in sunny Napier. But again, blessings.
Yes, absolutely. And so Caren and I are here in what we like to call our slice of heaven in Aotearoa in New Zealand. I'm based here in Auckland, and Caren is in sunny Napier. And if anyone knows anything about wine, that's where you got all the great white wine from.
Yes, come down.
So, Caren, the first thing and the first question I'd like to ask you is, in terms of celebrating women, who is the woman who has inspired you and who you would like to acknowledge this morning?
Really easy question. That one woman is my mother, Caren Rangi, who as a 17-year-old came from the remote Northern Islands of the Cooks to New Zealand to a single-sex boarding school, a very traditional English-style girls' school. A huge upheaval, but one of the things about Mum is her tenacity, which I totally admire. I think about how daunting that must have been at a young age to come to a completely different environment. She then qualified as a teacher and went on to become a college teacher. But I guess the most inspiring thing for me has been her ability to very staunchly maintain her cultural identity as a Northern Group Cook Island woman, something that she's passed down to me and also to my daughter, and that she's maintained that in a country where there aren't many of her kind. And at the same time, she's managed to make a huge contribution to Aotearoa New Zealand. So I live around the corner from her. I'm lucky, I see her every day, so I get my daily dose of inspiration, and I feel very lucky for that. She's also my friend. She is my colleague in Pacifica, one of my best and most critical advisors. And I'm very lucky that I have such inspiration up and close to me every day.
And isn't that wonderful to know that you've got not only the role model and the inspiration, but you've also got a friend in your mum that you see every day. How special is that?
Yeah, I'm so lucky. We also for a good time there worked in the same sector, in the health sector. So we worked as colleagues around improving breast and cervical screening, particularly for Pacific women. And that was a fabulous experience as well, because we were able to complement each other with our different skills and experience. So yeah, I am the luckiest girl in the world.
And how has that impacted your relationship with your daughter, Caren?
It's very interesting. The three of us spend a lot of time together. And so I feel fortunate that my daughter has that same experience that I've had with Mum. My mother and my daughter are the spitting images of each other. So I get inspiration from both of them, actually. And both Mum and I, feel really happy about the fact that we are building, inspiring and nurturing the next generation of really strong Cook Islands women.
Fantastic. And I have a real affiliation to the Cook Islands. My husband John is Cook Island Tonga-Niuean. So, you know, I'm an islander as far as I'm concerned. I'm from an island and I'm part of the Pacific.
Yes, well, you know, in Pacifica, we always say that New Zealand is a Pacific nation, and all New Zealanders are Pacific Islanders. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you, Caren, and that's really special, that you can see that intergenerational impact that women are having in your family, and I think that says a lot, and it does impact the way we turn up in this world. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, and Pacifica as an organisation, one of its strengths has always been the multi-generations of membership. So we have members from age 8 to 80 across 3 or 4 generations, and we are so much better off as an organisation for having that range of perspectives, for being able to highlight that every generation of women has something to contribute, and that we have much to learn from each other.
Fantastic. I love that kaupapa, or that purpose, and you know, developing purposeful leaders is what I truly believe in, and I know that you're living, breathing, and making that happen in your circles and in your networks. So thank you, Caren. So we've been talking, you know, before we came on to the interview, and you know, in the work that you do, how important is it for you in your environment and in your work to really champion gender diversity?
Well, my day-to-day work as a governance practitioner across 7 different boards where I'm a director or trustee, that is really fertile ground for being a champion for diverse thinking, diverse backgrounds, diverse experience, diversity of membership. And I guess for me, quite often, I am the diverse injection into that board table. So I'm really conscious about the responsibility of clearly articulating the value that diversity of thought, skills and background brings to governance decision making. That's been the area that I've chosen to champion, particularly because in New Zealand there are very, very few Cook Islands women who are able, who have the opportunity to sit at decision making tables. So I feel an even bigger responsibility, not just to be the value that diversity brings, but to articulate that so people understand, see it, recognise it.
And Caren is, as she mentioned, she is in governance roles. She's chosen this area and across 7 boards. And the unfortunate thing, I suppose, is that there aren't as many Cook Island women in these decision-making positions. And so, you know, what I really love about Caren is that she is there. She is helping push the agenda and representing Cook Island women on boards. And so what would your advice be to other Cook Island and Pacifica women looking to enter into this space, Caren?
The first thing is to be really clear about the value that you bring. Well, first of all, that you bring value. You know, value at the board table doesn't sound a certain way. I'm extra biased, I think, as the National President of Pacifica, because I get to see firsthand the huge skills and experience that our women have. But I think the first thing for our women is recognising that that's another space where they can apply those skills and experience and leadership. I guess the second thing is to understand that not all of your colleagues understand the context from which you come from. So you have a responsibility to clearly articulate that to them. And also, I guess, to be at the board table a really great, considerate colleague who also attempts to understand the context and background of others.
Fantastic. I love that. And, I would really encourage anyone, and especially in this space where we need more champions from Pacifica, is to really connect with women like Caren who are doing it. And I know that you're always available to counsel, coach, mentor, because you understand the space has room for others to step into.
Absolutely. I've been in the governance space for, 14 years now. And I've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. So I'm always on the lookout for people who I think will be great in that governance space. And it's not for everyone. It's certainly not for the faint-hearted. But I just think of the number of organisations who would be so much better off from having the diverse views of Pacific women at the board table.
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely agree with you. From our as RISE2025 is all about, lifting our indigenous women higher, 100,000 of them over the next 10 years. I'm absolutely with you, and whatever we can do to support, we're there with you, Caren.
Well, I've been thinking about my contribution to that, and I mean, one of the things is that I'm growing a really strong daughter. That's one of my contributions to Pacific Women Leadership, is growing my own.
Yes.
And in this busy life, I have seen over the years it's very easy for people to put their energy into things professionally, but I've been really conscious about the importance of putting that same leadership development into practice in my house every day, and we are benefiting from that as a family. We certainly see her leadership tendencies loud and clear. And we're really pleased about that we are growing a confident young woman who will be able to participate and lead in New Zealand society.
Fantastic. And our next generations coming through, they need that permission to lead, not only professionally, as you say, but within the whānau, within the family environment that we spend a lot of time. Great. And so one of the statistics that I read, and it was through the Global Gender Gap Report, was that it was going to take 118 years to get gender parity. And so very quickly, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series this week, it's International Women's Day tomorrow, is that it's unacceptable for me. It's unacceptable for my next generations of nieces and that are coming through, that we should have to wait 118 years. So I'm not waiting. I'm saying, what can we do? So what do you think needs to change, Caren, in terms of how we lessen that gap?
One of the things we need to do, and like you, I am not waiting 118 years to see things get better. One of the things that those of us who have chosen to champion the fact that different, diverse people have something to offer, is that we need to change the measurement sticks for what makes for great leadership. Leadership does not come in one nice, neat package. So I think by being really clear about what works from a leadership point of view, what is the value of women, what is the value of people of different ethnicities, what is the value of leaders of different age, only then will we start to say, actually, there's a different way to look at this. Maybe the gap isn't so big because we're actually using the wrong measuring sticks. Wow. We should be looking at what we have and how well we use them.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I champion is that leadership isn't always at the front. As Māori in a marae, we have leaders in the kitchen. Yeah, they're not at the front of the marae. And I see leaders every day at the marae, but they're not in the front. And so for me, leadership doesn't sit with the status on your business card or the letters after your name because you've got X amount of certificates, and that's all great, but it's more than that. So I love that we should be changing the measures of leadership. And as you say, the gap may not be as big if we looked at it from a different perspective.
Absolutely. I just, I think this conversation, and I think what's happening in leadership development generally in this country, I think the tide, I feel very, very positive that I think the tide is slowly starting to turn as people realise that we're not making the most of all the different skills and experience that we have. And, you know, there's been a range of studies done about the impact of diverse thinking on the bottom line of a company, which shows that productivity is better, results are better, profit and loss is better, all the things that people understand as measures. But the fact that you can attribute some of that to diverse thinking and diversity of leadership, that's really where we're going to get the change made.
Absolutely. And as New Zealand has become a hugely multicultural society, understanding cultural differences and not actually seeing them as differences, actually seeing them as complementing boards, leadership, teams in general, communities. I think that is hugely powerful, and I really am on that pathway with you.
I was saying to someone the other day, you know, there are many different ways to bake a cake, and one of the exciting opportunities we have is we start to uncover what we really have in terms of diverse skill in this country is realizing we got different ingredients, but we need some different cooking methods as well, and possibly some different chefs in order to make the most of what we've got. So I'm excited. I'm always excited by food. So, you know, I think this is a great way to look at it because this is a huge opportunity that we have. This is that New Zealand has.
Yes. And it is and I would say it is unique to New Zealand. We are only just over 4 million in population. You know, we're not a big tanker that needs to really shift because we've got X amount of history. And yes, we do. We understand that. But I think we're more like the streamlined speedboat that should be able to maneuver. And I think we're entrepreneurial enough, malleable enough to shift the conversation around leadership, especially in that diversity and inclusion space.
I think one of the features of New Zealand is that we've always had great agility. You know, people talk about us punching above our weight, all of that sort of thing, but we've had the agility to be able to turn when we needed to. And this is the next turn really that it's just right for the picking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there is a International Women's Day pledge for parity happening all over the world, and you know, RISE2025 wants to be part of that. We're also part of the UN global goals around gender diversity. And so my question to you, Caren, is what is your personal pledge for parity that you would like to put out into the universe and commit to?
Sure. My pledge for parity as the National President for Pacifica is for the next 24 months, and we've decided this as an executive, that we once a month are going to promote the value, skills and leadership of different Pacific women that we know out far and wide across New Zealand society, so it starts to recognise and acknowledge that Pacific women have a contribution to make to the leadership of this country. It's quite a big challenge for us as a small not-for-profit voluntary organisation, but we feel if we're not doing this, then we're not being true to the objectives of Pacifica, which is to celebrate and support and promote all that's great about Pacific women.
Wow, that's powerful. That is powerful. And, you know, I know that when you put an intention like that out in the world, people will come to support that, Caren. So you won't be doing it alone as a Pacifica woman. I believe that now that you've put that out there and we'll be sharing this, you know, social media, so it goes worldwide, people will come to support your intention.
And that's fabulous. And you know, the most that we ask actually is that people understand and recognise that skill, leadership, useful experience comes in many forms and guises, and in our case, covered in flowers in a female form, and that's how we bring it. And we, if I think about the generations, my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, they came to New Zealand because, yes, they wanted a better life in terms of education and work, but they also wanted to contribute to the life of people in this country. And we, Pacific women, quite often sit at the tail end of statistics in terms of low pay compared to other women, compared to men, low paying jobs. But at the same time, we've been able to make huge contribution to our communities and keep them strong. So that's the kind of contribution we want to highlight, because it's not well understood.
Yeah, great. And thank you for sharing that, because that information, when you shared it with me, was new to me as well. So now I understand that. I want to champion Pacifica women. Hence, RISE 2025 is about Māori, Pacifica and Asian women coming together as a collective, not trying to do it alone. So absolutely, now that we're aware of that, I think this is this type of information that helps us to make more informed decision on what we want to get involved in. So thank you, Caren.
It's great.
So, you mentioned flowers, and I picked this morning for you. I'm giving it to you virtually. From the top of Maunga Fo, Mount Eden. This was just at the cafe, just at the top. And I saw it and I thought of you, because I know you love to wear your flower.
Yes, I do. And it is a real symbol for Pacifica as an organisation, the flowers. It's a symbol of growth, symbol of hope, a symbol of development, really. And and they're beautiful.
They are so beautiful. They are so beautiful. And so, as we wrap up today, what are your plans for International Women's Day tomorrow?
Right. The first thing is later this afternoon, getting a message out to all of the members in our organisation who are spread from Whangarei down to Invercargill across 16 branches, to wish them well for the day, to remind them how fabulous they all are. And the contribution of Pacific women to this country. But we'll be sending that message out to others that we think need to hear that as well and be reminded. So some of our stakeholder organisations, our politicians, far and wide. And I will be reminding my daughter that there is a special day, even though in our house every day is Women's Day. But also a reminder to her that in other parts of the world there are girls who are not as fortunate as her, who won't have as many opportunities, who maybe will not be in a position to ever lead or develop their full potential, and we need to remember that.
Fantastic. And that is what International Women's Day is all about. I agree with you. I celebrate being a woman every day. But it is a good time to stop and pause and remember those that maybe don't have those opportunities to step into their fullest potential. So it's a great reminder, Caren, and I will be doing that as well. So as we wrap up, I would like to acknowledge you, Caren, for your courage. The word that comes to mind when I think of you is respect. I salute you for everything that you do for Pacifica women, for your whānau, your family, and for your daughter, for being a great role model. And I am with you on this journey, and this is what it's all about. It's about connecting, and this is what RISE is all about, is about connecting our indigenous community globally so that we can support each other, learn from each other, and move forward.
And it's that learning from each other that's really, really exciting. And so I'm excited to see RISE and excited to be part of it.
Fantastic. Well, you go off and have a wonderful day in the beautiful part of Napier, and I know that we will be connecting very soon. Ka kite.